church are a family business. Now, many of us, we are aware of a lot of churches that has been taken over by pastors' sons. That's what I'm talking about. That church is a family business. Matthew 16:18, Jesus Christ said, "Upon this rock I will build my church," or my ecclesia, my congregation, my assembly. And the gates of hell should not prevail against it. The church, the ecclesia, which is the congregation, the assembly, what we call church, belongs to Jesus. But many churches belongs to pastor and his son, his offspring. And many of us are aware of that. I have, in my city, I first saw this in 1976. I was looking for a charismatic church at that time. Came across the charismatic movement in 1970, got out of the military, 1974. Came back to my Pentecostal church and left it at the end of 1974 looking for a charismatic church. And it took me a little over 2 years to find it. So I kind of went through two church denominations, just studying different religions. And I came across an apostolic church. And that apostolic church was pastored by the pastor, the senior pastor, and his son. The senior pastor was the dad, and his son was the assistant pastor. Now, it was an all-white apostolic church. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. Stayed with them for a year and left. But see, it was already set up. Just in case the pastor died, the daddy died, the son took over. That church was a family business. And there's another church in my city, was taken over by a young man. The church was a Baptist church founded by a preacher that was on radio quite a bit. I would hear him on radio when I was a child. The next thing I know, his son had taken over the church and turned that Baptist church into a charismatic type church. Not only that, his son is now an apostle. See, the son took over his father's Baptist church. Now, I don't know if the pastor or if his father retired or he passed. I'm not aware of it. Now, this church is still in existence. It has a copy of the Statue of Liberty in the front of the church near the streets, and the Statue of Liberty is holding a cross. Now, this son calls himself an apostle now. Then we can go international. Fred Price Sr., I don't have to call names because it don't really matter. Fred Price's son took over his dad's church, Fred Price Jr. That church is a family business. See, in other words, all of these churches, not only are they a family business, they are a 501c3 business. Then you got Dad Osteen. Now, when I said Dad Osteen, you know who I'm talking about. His son, Joel, took over his church now. I can remember back in the 70s and 80s, we called him Dad Osteen. Dad. Now, Osteen Sr. was a pastor evangelist. That was his calling. And he was on either radio or TV all the time. The next thing I know, his son has taken over his church, and I'm thinking, who is this young man? Dad Osteen's son. I didn't even know Dad Osteen had a son. And his son has built that church up into a huge business. See? Now, let me just say something about Joel. Joel is not a pastor, but he does have a spiritual gift called the gift of exhortation. We call them motivational speakers today. That's his gift, and that's why that church is so big. Basically, motivational speakers say things that sounds good. See, that's all Joel is, a motivational speaker. He has no calling as a pastor or anything else for that matter. But he's good at talking, and he can make people feel good. Now, most churches start in a home, and there are many scriptures that deal with that. Aquila and Priscilla, a husband and wife team, was over a house church or house assembly. So that's how churches or assemblies get started. But the head of the church, the head of the assembly, should be Jesus Christ. And unfortunately, today, there are many, many churches that are family businesses now. See, now, when a church is started, normally you have to rely upon, that person has to rely upon their families to get that church started. But as it grows or develops, other qualified brothers and sisters in Christ should be put in positions to help. But you know as well as I do, many of those important positions in the churches are given to family members. Not only that, many of these churches become, incorporated. They have to have boards and all that stuff and executives, branches or whatever. And, so usually when it starts out, the family members are in those positions. But as time go on, other brothers and sisters in Christ should be put in those positions to help out. But I can tell you story after stories of how many of these churches keep certain of their family members in that position, especially when it comes to money. They want to know, their family wants to know where that money is going because they control it. So, is it a church or is it a family business? Not all churches are family businesses now, but many are. And how people can sit there and allow that mess to continue is beyond belief. They just put up with it and let it go. That's all I have to say. God bless.